Good morning. Welcome to Languages in the World of Work with Founders for Schools. I am Alison. I am from Founders for School as an engagement manager, and I'm going to be moderating this session today, where we have Julie Chambers, a process leader for accounts payable for EMA for Chubb, and we have Simon Knapper, who works with high voltage. Let me hope I get this right. HVDC Tendering Manager for Hitachi ABB power grids. I think both of those may be jobs that you might have to explain when you get the chance to speak to people. But welcome to the session. Today we're looking at how they use languages in the world of work. Today is International Mother's Language Day, and we're just celebrating the joy that languages can bring, but also how it can help your career. So they will be telling their career story and sharing experiences, and then we will be inviting you to ask questions. We are asking that you stay off camera and mute, please, and ask your questions in the chat function. That's partly for safeguarding, but partly there are a lot of you on the session today, so it will just help make everything move a bit more smoothly. So, who are Founders for Schools? Well, we work to inspire and support students to make informed decisions about their careers. We do that through various ways. One of these ways are these career webinars, where we ask business people to come on and share their career story. Today, the skills that we are focusing on is very much languages and foreign languages, because it's a skill that's it's always been relevant, but it's becoming increasingly more relevant in a world where we really are a global village, and we have things like Brexit and global pandemics that just make things a lot more interesting when you enter the world of work. So, as I mentioned to the audience, your audio and video has been disabled. You can answer questions in the chat, and in fact, you will have a few questions up in a poll that we would love your answers to. Please do ask any questions that you have in the chat box, and we will get around to answering after we've heard from both of our speakers, Julie and Simon. Hopefully we'll get through them all, but we'll see how we go. Like I said, it is a very busy session today. We are recording the session, and it will be available on our platform and on YouTube shortly afterwards. So please do sit back and enjoy the webinar and take notes if you need to. So first of all, again, Julie and Simon, thank you very much for joining us. And agreeing to share your story. Really keen to hear what you're doing. So I think probably the easiest thing is if we just start. If you start with who you are, your job title and your company, and just give us about 8 minutes on your language abilities and how you use them in the world of work. And we'll start with you, please, Julie.
Okay, hi everyone. Julie Chambers. I work for Chubb, which many of you will probably not have heard of, but it is it is the largest property and casualty publicly traded insurance company in the world. You won't have heard of them unless perhaps you have a mobile phone insurance contract, which is probably, if you look at the small print, underwritten by Chubb. We do an awful lot of that, but apart from that, it's corporate insurance. We insure ships and big businesses and things like that. So it's a bigger household name in the States actually than it is here. It has nothing to do with fire extinguishers and locks and keys and all of that, which everybody thinks it does. Chubb is a separate thing as an insurance company. Having said all that, I have very little to do with insurance because I work in the finance department, which deals with keeping all the offices going, basically, and the people going. So we pay all of the invoices for things like rents, electricity, the coffee machine, stationery, advertising campaigns, legal advice, you name it. My team will process and pay the invoices. So I manage a team of 4 based in Glasgow, and offshore a team of 10 based in Delhi in India. We offshored there about 11 years ago. So we've been working with them for a long time. So the area that I cover is EMEA, as Alison said, so Europe, Middle East and Africa. So that means that we process invoices for all of the countries. That we operate in 54 countries worldwide, but my team looks after that region, Europe, Middle East and Africa. So my languages, I learned German at school. I did German and French and went on to do German at university. I spent a year at university in Germany, made lots of friends, went and worked there for a while afterwards. And I still have a lot of contact with those friends in Germany. So I speak German quite regularly in a social context, but for work, I can talk to the people in our German offices. Yes, everybody says, oh yeah, well, they can all speak English, blah, 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 blah. And yes, they can. That is true in that case of Germany. But do you know what? They actually like it a lot better if you have a go and talk to them in their own language. It makes them more relaxed. You know, and business German is different to everyday German. You know, we use a lot of different vocabulary. So if you can speak that and you can just, you know, have a chat with them about whatever issue it is that's or whatever project you're on, it makes a world of difference. And having said that about English being the international business language, I have been working in Mexico quite a lot recently. Now, obviously, Mexico is not in Europe, but it happened to be where we went to assist them because we had already done some projects in a particular area. So we went over to Mexico to help them, and not many people spoke English. So if you'd got a few words of Spanish or more, I mean, can get together a sentence in Spanish, it made a huge difference. Even trying to speak a few words, you know, on the basis of other languages that I know, really helped. It helped build a rapport between me and the people there. It made us the communication was a lot easier. You know, people just felt, well, you know, she's trying to make an effort to speak our language, and it really makes them open up. And I think the other thing is that it makes you, as an English speaker, more aware of the difficulties of speaking another language. So, you know, I often find my colleagues who haven't necessarily learned a foreign language, they speak far too quickly, they use slang, they use idioms, and whether it be our colleagues in our European offices or my team in India, they're lost. They really struggle. So if you understand what it's like to be to have a language as your second language, not your mother tongue, I think that really helps you because you moderate your English to accommodate that. I think the other thing for me, at least, is culture. It broadens your mind so much to be able to speak another language, to really be able to talk to people, understand where they're coming from, the way they live their lives. It really meant that I began to see the world in a different light, if you like, and in a different way. When I started languages and meeting people from different countries, I would say probably if there's one piece of advice I could give to people who are learning other languages at the moment, if you can manage it, total immersion is the best way. Go there, live there, spend time there. You know, that to me is the best possible way to learn it. Now, not so easy. It's all very well me talking because I did all of this pre-Brexit. Things were very easy for me when I was a student. Not so easy now, but it's still possible. And I would urge anybody learning languages to try to get some time in the country and just immerse yourself in that language and in that culture. So I could go on for days, but
no, that's a fantastic place to stop. And actually, as someone who also went to Germany to work, I concur, especially when somebody like myself has.
She's not speaking.
Hi. If you could stay on mute though, that would be fantastic. There's an awful lot of people online. Okay, so could we turn to you now, Simon? Can you tell us a little bit about your story, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm going to try and share a presentation if I can. So if I could get some feedback that presentation's working, that would be great.
Sure. Something's happening. Yes, can see it now. It's working well.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. So a little bit about myself. First of all, my name's Simon Knapper. Just a little bit about where I live. So I live in Staffordshire with my wife and 2 daughters. Started off life as an engineering apprentice in 1983 at 16. I left school at 16. I think that's important to point out, not 18. I'm currently an incorporated engineer, a member of the IET, and I'm the tendering and lead manager for HVDC in the UK for Hitachi. A little bit about my pastime. Photograph there shows me sitting proud on the top of one of the mountains I've walked. I think that's Scarfell Pike, actually. I like travelling to warm and cold places, skiing, and then relaxing in the sun's good for me. I like playing snooker. I do lots of DIY, and I like bridges. Probably not that relevant, but I do like bridges. And here are some of the bridges that I've. Forth Bridge, of course, that's just one of the Forth bridges. I realise that's the train Forth Bridge. I've been across the Forth Bridge on the train, driven across on the other bridge. I've been across the Tampa Bay Bridge in the USA, fantastic bridge. The Story Most and the Millau Viaduct. Just wanted to share with you 2 other bridges that I'm looking to go across some point in the next couple of years after lockdown. So what does being the UK lead manager for HVDC mean? What it means is I play a key part in the UK's overall decarbonisation strategy. This screenshot here that I took only just over half an hour ago actually shows the UK demand for transmission power at this moment in time, and the demand is just over 30 gigawatts. I realise this might be, very technical and a lot of new information to people, but really do just take a look at this website after we're finished, because it's available for anybody to see, and it gives you dynamic information in terms of the demand in the UK and where the power comes from. And this is really interesting because at the moment, a significant amount of power still comes from fossil fuels. And the role that I play in HVDC Tendering and UK Manager is to deliver HVDC projects that remove our dependence on fossil fuels and start to move more towards renewables. In terms of the projects that we deliver projects all over the world, but one that we've just delivered actually is now operational is the project up in Scotland. I put a little map on the right-hand side there so that people can be aware geographically of where some of these places are. So we delivered this project out of East Kilbride up in Glasgow, and also out of our offices in Inverness. And this is a great project that looks at delivering not only system reinforcement across the Moray Firth, but also will be harnessing the wind power from Shetland when the Shetland project is completed. So that's a great example locally. So just a little bit about myself in terms of school. So I went to Newcastle High School in Staffordshire. I studied the languages. I didn't study any languages. I didn't pass French at all. I wasn't interested in history or geography, and English literature just didn't tick the boxes. So my focuses were more around the sciences and practical things. I think this is really important because it's probably one of the biggest regrets that I have, that I didn't spend more time on French. So why am I even talking here today? Good question. So I'll come on to that very shortly. So my early career, I decided that I needed to go into engineering because that was where my focus lay. The 2 main options locally were GEC or Michelin. I applied to GEC. This was definitely my favoured route, but I was unsuccessful. I didn't succeed on the apprenticeship programme. And unfortunately, I was told I hadn't made the cut. I did, however, succeed on a Michelin apprenticeship. But the day I was due to start at Michelin, GEC phoned me and told me that somebody had dropped out and that I was on the reserve list and I could now take the GEC apprenticeship. Difficult decision, but not that difficult. I took it. So I want to share a few takeaways with you as I go through the story, because I was advised to go to GEC, and I think that was good advice. But my advice to people is if you're taking advice, make sure that advice is sound and make sure that it fulfills what you want out of it. Be prepared for some knockbacks. I had a very early knockback at the age of 16. I was told that I hadn't been successful in my chosen career route, and that was, that was quite devastating for me at the time. But failure, some people call it experience. But always have a backup plan there. An experience, what is it? Well, lots of people have different definitions, but I love this explanation. It's what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. And if you have a little think about that, I like that, because, of course, we can practice all the time and do things competently time and time again. But that's really just references, repeated references. Experience is what you get when something different happened to what you were expecting. So in terms of my career, it's not really stayed very static for too long. In 1983, I was an apprentice. I moved into test engineering. Probably not too difficult to see the career route there. I was definitely interested in practical, electrical. Moved from test engineering into commissioning engineering, going around the UK. That was really interesting, looking at a lot of the process industries. Really fortunate to visit a lot of the, we were still a very industrial nation back in the early 80s. So very fortunate to, visit and be involved in commissioning of lots of process industries around the UK. Moved into application engineering, then development engineering, moved into marketing, then sales, became a sales manager. And before I continue, I want to focus a little bit just on this role here, the development engineer. And I just want to give you a little bit of a takeaway in terms of a career path. So as you can see from my career, sticking to a career plan doesn't mean staying in the job. It absolutely does not mean that. So please don't think that you have to leave school, go to university, and you become a full-time professional in a certain field. You don't have to do that if that's not your aspiration. You can learn, continue to invest in yourself, continue to develop, and move on throughout your career. But be sure to seek out, understand, and exploit opportunities as they arise. They rarely come knocking on your door. Sometimes you have to put yourself out and go looking for those opportunities yourself. So at 27, actually, they were asked for people to go and work in France, and I was asked to go. I was really flattered. It was great, but I didn't speak French. Je ne parle pas français. That was clear. What would my fiancée say? Je pense que non. You're not going to go. So, I was really regretting at this point that I hadn't spent more time learning French back in school. Where is Chalon in France? Because I didn't really pay much attention in geography either. So here I was, didn't understand where Chalon was, couldn't speak French, but such a great opportunity. So it would be very easy to say no to this opportunity, but of course I didn't say no. And that's where Chalon is in France. It's pretty much in the centre of France, in the wine region, as it happens. And so some of my takeaways is, opportunity is more likely to knock if you let it know who you are. By constantly moving, by constantly pushing yourself, and sharing with other people your competencies, it's more likely to come and knock on your door. And how I wish I'd paid more attention to French. And I really want to instill into, everybody on the call now, don't just focus on things that are important and relevant to you now. Think about where your future may go, and really, take full opportunity of the learning environment in which you're in at this moment in time. And if opportunity does knock on your door, it can be quite flattering. But my advice would be always proceed with an element of caution. Don't just jump into it. Do your own background research and make sure it's the right opportunity for yourself. So I accepted the opportunity. Obviously, I undertook very intense training in French. It was very difficult. I studied hard. I made mistakes. I really made mistakes. I used the wrong word to the wrong people at the wrong time. With some really bad consequences. But, we enjoyed our time there. We visited places. We had great experiences. We made new friends of which I'm still in contact with now. And we travel across to France and see them still. But I'd also get extremely frustrated if I didn't know a word. And I used to carry a dictionary around with me all the time because I hadn't paid enough attention whilst I was at school. So I know it's a little bit sad, but I did actually find myself reading the dictionary. You'd look up one word and then find the word adjacent to it in the dictionary more interesting than the one that you'd looked up, and then you'd spend half an hour in the dictionary. It's a little bit sad, but it's quite a good way of learning as well. So I often felt like I was failing, and yeah, I did carry that regret from school with me, and I probably still carry it to this day. So don't ever think that learning is over. It never is. I'm still learning now. I'm looking at other languages now. Kilo is a kilo in a lot of languages, an interesting one, because we found that out. You can pretty much ask for a kilo of anything in any language, and people will understand it. You know, if you find yourself in a foreign country and you want some fruit or vegetables, if you point at it and just say kilo, I think it's highly likely that you will end up with a kilo of whatever it is you're pointing at. Knowing a word is far easier than ever trying to explain it. You know, the number of times I've sat in meetings and I'm trying to explain a word when you find out the word for table is actually just table. So, you know, do learn your numbers, do learn your colours, and learn your vocab by heart. You really don't need to know thousands and thousands of words and verbs to be really competent and conversant in another language. I would say it's only probably maybe just a few hundred even. Probably most. And finally, you know, we went to lots of places in France where no one spoke a word of English. And we even challenged ourselves to do that, because it was kind of like a personal goal to go somewhere to some really small villages where people, you know, didn't really speak any other languages at all, and to be able to go in there and to communicate with them and share some time in some local villages was really fantastic. Few photographs. Actually, the top left-hand side is the house that we lived in Chalon. The top right is where the market was. It's also where the outside tables were, adjacent to restaurants and bars, and a lovely cathedral there where one of my friends actually got married. Bottom left is some of the lovely vineyards in Burgundy. You know, I'd never imagined that I would have visited any of these places. And of course, the bottom right, the Eiffel Tower, which, you know, it's if there's one country and one, you know, major city in the world that I would ever advise anyone to visit, it would be Paris. What a beautiful country that is, and a beautiful town. So then, after I come back from France, I moved into management. I wanted to be closer to home. Priorities changed. I changed roles again from GEC, moved into ABB. I want to move forward a little bit quickly now, probably run out of time. And I wanted to share with people that, you know, when your personal circumstances change, you know, you really stop, rethink and replan, and make sure that you're constantly dynamic and constantly thinking about what's right for you. You know, embrace opportunities to learn something new every day. I think it was one of my lecturers at university who said that something to once, and I think it's really good. You know, at the end of every day, reflect on something new that you've learned that day. This next point is really important. You know, associate yourself with people that you want to be associated with. You know, if you see someone who's successful in a certain career, then, you know, try and look at what they do and how they do it, because you're more likely to succeed in that career if you associate with those people. That's why I became a member of the IET. And one of the most important things you can ever do for someone is to listen. And I learned my you know, the skill of listening. You know, you learn that skill more when learning a foreign language than you do doing anything else in life. I think that's certainly true for me. And I can listen more now because of my ability to, because of the fact that I was in that environment and had to learn French by listening all the time. So these are 4 places. Some of these places I've visited with work, and some I may not have visited. I'd be interested, I wanted to try and make this a little bit interactive. I'm towards the end of the presentation now, and just see if people on the call really know where these places are, and have a view on whether or not I may have visited them. I mean, for me, it's okay if we turn the microphones off now and people offer any guesses on where they are.
Because of the amount of people on the call, we're asking you don't, because it's likely to cause a lot of problems. They can pop in the chat. Just while people are popping their answers in the chat, we do actually have a few questions that have come through already.
Okay. Sure.
So this is for both of you, and first of all, thank you very much for that. How do you think, or how important do you think English people or British people speaking foreign languages will be in the post-Brexit world, and what sort of impact do you think it's already having when big companies like yourselves are recruiting in Europe?
Well, if Simon, if you don't mind, I'll go first. I think it's hugely important. Chubb actually relocated its European head office from London to Paris as a result of Brexit. So an awful lot of the major decisions and the major meetings are now held in Paris. And, you know, it is a bit of a cliche, but there is nothing the French like better than you speaking their language. You know, if you can go to a meeting in Paris, you might not even be able to contribute fully in French, but if you can just say a few words, make the effort, it's brilliant. Chubb continues to have offices in all major European countries and some of the not so major ones. And I see no end to that because of Brexit. They will continue to operate there. They still will have a base in the UK, and they are continuing to view Glasgow as their main shared service centre, not just for finance, but for operations and claims as well in the UK. So there's a huge amount of interaction with other countries and a big demand for people who speak languages. So, you know, thankfully, I don't really see Brexit having had too much of an impact on that as yet, and I hope that continues.
And how about in the world of energy and engineering type work, Simon? What's your view from that side of things?
Yeah, you know, I mean, people ask me this question quite often, and of course, you know, for the majority of people in the world, their second language is English, and so for a native speaking English person, it's not always obvious which second language to choose. But what I would say is, and I completely echo what's been said there, it's so important to break down barriers when people are talking a different language. You know, you don't need to be completely fluent in that language, but to make an effort to, you know, even if you're just exchanging pleasantries, talking about people's journey, you know, are they okay? How are things? Just some basic pleasantries in another foreign language completely cuts through lots of barriers which may otherwise exist. So I think it's absolutely critical. And I wouldn't say, you know, just learn one language. Whichever country, whichever, you know, region you happen to be, you know, potentially visiting or doing business with, whether it's on a social level or whether it's on a business level, you know, really do make the effort, because the rewards are actually quite amazing. They're amazing for yourself, and they're also amazing in terms of the feedback and the reception you will get from the people you interact with. So absolutely critical.
Okay. And if there was one thing that you think helped you learn your languages, what do you think it is? What would you pass on to the young people to think of?
Going to the countries. I think, you know, as I said earlier, it's invaluable. The language that you learn in schools, at university, you know, I had done 2 years at university and several years at school of German before I actually went to university in Germany. And the first few weeks I thought, well, I've wasted my time all these years, because I was in Bavaria, very strong accent. Even the region of Bavaria that I was in has its own special accent and language. And I thought, well, I don't understand a word these people speak. But that changed. I got there, and, you know, I can now converse with most people in Germany, and I get whatever accent they have, it's not an issue. But the language that you learn is, you know, it's like learning Queen's English, if you like. That isn't the language that people speak. So you have to go there. And if you can't, then at least try and get some contacts and speak with native speakers.
Okay. And I'm going to have to make you answer very, very quickly, Simon. What do you think has been yours? Because not everybody is in a position to go to the countries as fabulous as an opportunity that is.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, for me, an opportunity arose where I was pretty much compelled to learn French. I think I'm completely honest. I wouldn't have learnt French if I wasn't put in that environment. However, I do think even being put in an environment doesn't in itself automatically mean that you will be able then to come away and speak that language. You know, you have to have a reason for yourself, and sometimes that reason needs to come from within. I think that people will always be able to sort of scrape through life with English, but you know, for me, being able to have the interaction and progress, you know, you really need to acknowledge that other people, just acknowledge that other people actually speak a different language, and embrace that by actually attempting to communicate with them in their own language is just a wonderful experience. So yeah, I mean, just do it.
Okay. And I think that is an immensely positive note to finish on. Thank you everyone for coming along. We hope this was helpful to you. We have put some questions in the poll. I hope you got in the chat. I hope you got a chance to answer that. Thank you very much, Julie and Simon. I personally, having done what you've done, think this is so important that people understand how wonderful it can make your life to go off and learn these languages, but also how much practical value it can be to you and your career. And I think you've both expressed that fantastically well. So thank you everyone for coming along. Hopefully we'll see you in some other sessions. We do have another whole day event on the 3rd of March called Careers in the Spotlights. So you're welcome to book on that. And if you're coming to any of the other sessions today, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much, everybody. And this session will be available on our YouTube channel in the next week or so if you want to listen back to what's taking place. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.